other things pertaining to Mars that I touched on just for a moment. We brought this information to a scientist working on the Mars imaging project in Flagstaff, Arizona at the USGS. A very nice and gracious man named Ken Henoch, who took an unscheduled appointment with Andrea and me. We went up there. I had printed out 3 pages of information that Billy had on Mars, some on black holes, a few other things, other planets. And I said, here, Ken, you're the man. I saw you in the paper, Mars mission, imaging, all this. Here, when you have time, look through it. He sends me an email. It's very funny. He says, well, could he be making lucky guesses? Because he's a scientist working on this. This is correct information. Of course, all of the dates that we can verify Billy published this information, fortunately, it's in these books. Most of it. There's some that came a little later. Enough. How could Billy know in 1975, 76 that there are small life forms on Mars, meaning flora, fauna, that will be discovered, or that there's an element of the environment there that's hostile to life? Scientists later on, of course, discover, we finally reanalyzed evidence, and there's small life forms. There's something called perchlorate in the soil up there that is not a positive thing. It's a hostile chemical element. How did he know which directions the water was flowing in, where the water was stored, the ices, the South Pole, specific, what the material in the canals of Mars? The fact that only recently discovered, that there was some form of huge, previously unknown sized river that ran on Mars. Billy published that information. I gave it to Ken Henoch in there. Of course, Ken was completely confounded, and then he tried to make a point, and he writes me back, I've never heard about lightning on Mars, he wrote, because Billy reported that decades ago. So I went online, and only a few years passed, 10, 12 years ago, NASA finally discovers lightning on Mars. But Ken, a Mars scientist, didn't know it. And he says to me, well, I hope you're not going to try to convince me. I said, of course I will. You're a scientist. You should be able to rebut this if it's some hoax or something. He never got back to me. And this has happened with other people we've reached out to who never even engaged that much, just would not respond. Well, a simple thing. Recently, there was an article about how silver compounds, maybe an ionic silver or a silver solution, was very good for helping to heal atopic dermatitis. Well, years ago, that's what Ptah told Billy, or it was Quetzal, and he said, yes, atopic dermatitis, very, irritating condition, and what is very effective in many cases is silver. Now, this is why I say almost, if not every day, every week, some new finding comes up, but it's not new. Now, what does this mean to us? It means that we as individuals don't have to be scientists. We don't have to be, politically, religiously, in any way, shape, or form, experts or use our beliefs about anything to filter. We're looking for facts. A copyright is a legally established standard of proof for first publication. Okay. When I was in Las Vegas some years ago, I had a table at a MUFON event. A man comes over, older guy, shaking his head left to right. No, can't be true. What do you do, sir? I'm a retired judge. May I step into your courtroom? I asked him. Yes, how can I help you? Very nice guy, straight ahead. Your Honor, if I say to you that NASA's claim that they discovered the reason for the contraction of the surface of Mercury pertains to the core, the metal core, that their claim to discover it was preceded by this friend of mine in Switzerland, would I have to prove that to you? Well, of course you'd have to prove it. I grabbed the book. I said, Your Honor, do you see that copyright date? Yes, he knew. I said, now go with me, because I just happened to know where that contact was. So when this man, Billy Meier, asks the alleged extraterrestrial woman, I've always wanted to know, what's the reason for the contraction of the surface of Mercury? She says, well, it's not difficult. It's because of the metal core. Your Honor, in your courtroom, who prevails? You do. I want the book, the video down. He understood. About the Sceptics on a Saturday morning in January of 2017, about 8:30 if I recall. The phone rings. I answer it. Asks, Michael, yes. Billy Meier, yes. My name's Joe. I'm an investigator. Hi, Joe. How can I help you? You talked to me about this Billy Meier case? Yeah, I say, that's what I like to do. You sure? I said, yes. What's the problem? He says, I think it's a big hoax. You still talk to me? I said, let's go. For 3 months, every Saturday morning, just about the same time, the phone rings and Joe calls. Oh, yes. Hi, Joe. How you doing? What's today? It was no longer a conversation past the first call. It was an interrogation. This man, when he said he was an investigator, he didn't mean like all the clown people in UFO world that run around saying they're investigators and researchers and do everything from their desk and never go anywhere. He knew how to ask questions, and he knew what questions to ask. And every now and then there'd be this, okay, or nothing, or I see, now, this. And he would go on, and we would march through question by question. He didn't argue with me. He asked his questions, he made his notes, and then suddenly, plötzlich, at the end of March, he's gone. No phone calls. Oh, okay, Joe's come and gone. I don't know who he was. August, late August, the phone rings. Hi, it's me, Joe. Yeah, it's you, Joe, isn't it? Yes. You still willing to talk to me? I said, of course. He said, well, I'm going to tell you who I am. And then I'm going to tell you about your Billy Meier case. I said, fine. Who are you? What's up? Open your email. Okay. I see tabletops and photos, of things set on tables. He says, okay, now, can you see some of the writing on that? Yeah, Department of Defense, USAF, what is this? He says, I was about at the top of investigation and supervision cases for the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigation and Department of Defense. The Air Force was not interested at this time in UFOs. My work had nothing to do with them. I was tasked with helping to protect the security of the United States. Okay. I vetted hundreds of people. I had people sitting in front of me who either were aspiring to or who had attained high levels of governmental position or military. We were ferreting out moles and traitors and also vetting people who could end up with their fingers on a nuclear trigger. I read body language very well. I've been in the room with these people. Billy Meier, I went through everything that you referred me to. I searched out that woman who had been a young girl at an ashram in Ashoka. I was able to verify for myself. Indeed, she was there. She had an uncle or a grandfather who was the head monk. Yes, her brother was there. This all checked out. I checked out that newspaper, the Delhi Statesman, in which that article about young Edward Albert Meier and his photo was there, and photos that he presented, and this investigator. The paper is a good paper. They've been around a long time. I checked out the reporter. He was a very straight-ahead guy. I read the article, and I looked, and I saw the photos, and I saw that there were photos here. You still have 12 of those photos. There were more, but you still have them. I looked at the photos. I started to think through all of the other evidence. And he said, your Billy Meier case is 100% ironclad authentic. I will take on any skeptics on your behalf. And I'm sitting there going, Joe, he said, yeah, my name is Joe Tysk. I am an expat. I no longer live in the country. Those photos and the emails I sent you, yes. He said, you delete that, please? I said, done. And I did. Sure, I would have liked to have had that, but he said, now what I'll do, I will help you. Okay, so he took on a couple of the skeptics. There's a guy in ufology named Kevin Randall who considers himself a UFO expert. He had a conversation with Joe that I'm sure he wished he never had entered into because Joe kind of took him apart. And after two of these encounters, Joe calls me and says, listen, I'm going to take that back. I cannot deal with these people in ufology. I investigated a high level. These people don't know what they're doing. One guy, I think he was Kevin Randall, or it was a skeptic in India, said maybe Billy was carrying around an enlarger with him in India. Here he's a vagabond with a knapsack. He says, my question is, where in India in 1964 does this vagabond get an album full of UFO photos? There's no UFOs Are Us in India in 1964. He said, they can't answer any of this. They don't know what they're doing. So he says, I'm going to make it simple for you. I've written an article for your blog. You disseminate it freely. Anybody who reads it can go through step by step and understand how they can determine the truth for themselves. And your skeptics have it all backwards. They think that if somebody found a hoaxed Billy Meier photograph that probably wasn't even hoaxed by Billy, that would invalidate it. No, the way we work, you find one authentic photo, one authentic piece of important evidence, that can make your entire case. So you throw out everything else. And this is important for what we're speaking about here today. I'll come back to it. So he said, means, mode of opportunity, he spelled it out. And indeed, in all fairness to myself, 7 years earlier, I wrote an article stating the same thing, but I prefer to focus on Joe's article because I wasn't tasked with protecting the country. He was. And he shows you step by step how anybody who's just a fair thinker can do it. Now I'll come back to what I just said. If one photo is enough for a top-level national intelligence officer to say, we've got something here, what do you think it means when we have 1, 7, 15, 91 to 134, 250 specific, error-free, ironclad examples, copyright verified, and there's many ways that copyrights exist, folks, copyrighted examples of prophetically accurate scientific and geopolitical, environmental, medical, and economic information.
people that believe they're telling a true story, but in fact are schizophrenic or they have some issues. Or I think there's a lot of that going on.
Billy
too.
Meier was doubted for many
Sure,
years.
I know that
What do you think
story.
about him? The pictures are so vivid, and the Plejaren story is so vivid. I mean,
a book.
Billy Meier. You can
It's
put
in the other
Billy
room.
Meier UFO photos. They'll be
Where's
up
he
there.
from? What?
He's Swiss. He was a Swiss.
Yeah, we have his book. That was
I know.
Somebody came to the Comedy Store and
with
gave
the,
me
with the
this
big
book on that guy.
The big pictures and the yeah.
But
There it is.
isn't that widely proven
well,
that
they
that
say.
guy's full of shit?
Well, look at the one by the pine tree. They're going. Oh, he attached the saucer to the pine tree.
I heard
but,
he threw it in the air and took a picture of it.
Okay, well, that's one theory, but wasn't it? Didn't they do that just to show the scale of their ship? And some of those photos are pretty convincing. I don't know. And yeah, okay, if you want to say
One
doubt.
guy who keeps taking awesome pictures of UFOs, I'm not buying it.
Well, again, if there was anyone that I had doubt, because so much doubt has been thrown his way, that's pretty. I mean, how do you? Well, I suppose with Photoshop, but Bruce Maccabee, I believe, Bruce Maccabee's analyzed these. He did a photo analysis, and he said that Bruce believes they're real, and I believe Bruce. If you read this book here, he's the real thing. Like what Stanton was the real thing, Bruce Maccabee's the real thing, because they're scientists who are doing very very thorough and close inquiry on the matter. So if you ask me who I doubt, maybe I don't know, Billy Meier. I don't know.
Yeah, he took too many.
Yeah.
If you had like 3.
It's like a glut. It's like too much chocolate.
Yeah, come on, bro. That's all you're doing? You're out there and they just come to you?
Far back as 1947 and 48, there's warnings about a dreadful pandemic that will come out of China and a medication that will be just as deadly. We are told even at that time who the real perpetrators, who set this in motion, the progenitors of this disease. It's not the people that the conspiracists are all screaming about. They think everything just happened now. And this has been in process for decades and decades. And we freely tell who this is. You can look up and see what this information is and decide for yourself. We've published a test online where you can see that from as early for us as February 25th, 2020, we have published the information Billy has been given by the Plejaren on current disease. Every single one of these items, not only true, published before all other official sources. You can check it out for yourself. So, my friends, there is nothing here to believe. I could sit here for 2 hours, literally at least, and go through dozens and dozens and dozens of these things where the new discoveries even use the same terms. I'll throw one out at you. Years and years and decades ago, Billy asks Quetzal about what the biggest rodent on Earth ever was. I mean, who wants to know about the biggest rodent on Earth? Billy wants to know. And Quetzal explains to him the size of the thing and all of that, and it was about the size of a cow, he's told. I think it was 20 years later when the new discovery came out about scientists had just, here it comes, discovered the largest rodent that ever lived was about the size of a cow. Not the size of a rhinoceros, not the size of a duck, the size of a cow. Just as Meier was told. 2005, 2006, I was speaking with Billy in Switzerland. And it was not long after the Iraq War, was it? And I turned to him and I said, Billy, fundamentally, was the Iraq War about oil? And I think he's going to say, yes, of course. And Billy turns. It was funny. I know right where we were speaking. He turned to me and he had his finger in the air. He says, no, fundamentally, it's about your dollar. And if things go a certain way, you may as well roll cigarettes with your paper money. 2005, 6. It's headed on the internet by 2006. 2017, Billy spells out what's going to happen because the whole agenda will be a cashless society. And he spells out how this is coming about through the abuses of the powerful people and the agendas to control everything. And many things are spelled out in there. And he especially mentions how people, first, it seems like a worldwide thing, will be dispossessed while the elite are rolling around in their wealth and comfort. And he specifically says the American people will be dispossessed and the government will turn the police and military against the partly heavily armed population. Now, it's worth mentioning that years and even decades before that, he foretold as early as 1981. I read it in 86. I read it in the book. I'm with another guy. We're both interested. I said, what's this Swiss guy smoking? 2 civil wars in America. It can't happen. And I said, well, I'm just getting familiar with all this published material. Who's laughing now with the polarization in America? I asked Billy even a few years ago, so Billy, the civil wars are still going to happen? Then he had a different answer for me. America will destroy itself. It's happening now. The whole mentality that has been there since the inception of our country, when George Washington murdered an emissary of peace to establish the theme and the trend and the tone of what this country would be founded and based on, that has filtered down because of the law of cause and effect. Certainly, you can't dissociate and cut away when a country then extends itself hundreds of times in unprovoked acts of aggression, destabilization, wars, murder, and terrorism against peoples, countries all over the world for decades and decades and decades. And that is the underbelly, the agenda of the shadow government, you could say, those powers behind the throne. That does not go unanswered because we don't get punished by anything other than the results of our own actions. So Billy foretold, we talk about the breakup of the U.S., we talk about wars with Russia and China and other countries, all of these things, but they're foretold. So we can see now when we look at things, when we can see about the economic crisis, people are talking about it right now. So they're saying that in July, America will go to a completely digital currency. Whatever, it's in these reports. You want to read tomorrow's news, you read Billy's old prophecies and predictions.
Weißt du, und ich denke, meine Meinung, wenn Clinton hinkommt, Hillary Clinton, dann ist der Teufel los, genauso wie bei Bush und so weiter. Und sie ist ja Befürworterin für Todesstrafe, Death Penalty.
Ja.
Dann kommt es auch schlimm in Amerika, genau wie bei Bush. Und ich denke, wenn Trump hinkommt, ist genauso blöd. Ich glaube, das sind zwei, die überhaupt nichts taugen für Präsidentschaft. Ja, ja. Weißt du, und das macht ganz Amerika kaputt.
Ja.
Oder?
Now you have the opportunity to choose what you want to do with your life, and then you come to the foundational information, which is called the Geisteslehre, a non-religious, belief-free teaching, creation energy teaching. Just like if you have a book that you open to learn how to fix a car or operate computers or plant gardens or study history, you're given information, but then you have to apply it. Does it work when I connect this wire on the computer or on the car? How do I fix the brake? I've never done that before. Oh, it says to do this and that. When we learn how to think, how thinking works, how the process, and the reading of the teaching and the contemplation of it works very deeply. We may have questions. We may not understand everything. We read again. We go as far as we can, testing in our own lives the effect of, as I study this, how does my life change? Because I have been taught now that everything starts for the individual with their thoughts, it moves to the feelings, and then ultimately it goes into our action or inactions. We choose. We are responsible. So we learn to see things actually as they are, not through a filter of, I like it, I don't like it. No, what is? So there we have the positive neutral approach, or neutral positive approach, where we first see things as they are neutrally. And then that which we choose to do with things that moves our evolution and our thinking and our behavior and our feeling and our relationships forward in positive directions, cooperatively for humankind, for our interactions in our personal lives, we get something that no religion, no politics, no government, no school really teaches us. This is what we were not taught in school. And there are many things that you will learn from this material, from this source, that you were not taught in school. But it will always be your choice. How far do I read? What do I do? How do I apply this? All I can say, speaking for myself, and knowing other people who come to this just as you've been introduced to it through this, we decided to look a little deeper. And there's plenty of free material. We have a blog, 2,000 articles, Billy's information everywhere. There is a British website. There's a German website. And this is being translated into many languages. So when I say we want to be among the survivors, that also means the people that embrace the teaching to study themselves, who survive the programming and the negativity of a world that has been enshrouded in negativity for a long time. Nobody's perfect. Everybody must make their own mistakes to learn. So it's an open offer. You don't have to join anything. You don't have to send anybody money. No one's going to knock on your door. There's no religion. There's no cult. No. It's a bunch of hardworking people who argue with themselves just as well as we all do in our lives, and who are on the same pathway, trying to work cooperatively to bring it forward. Because politics, you don't cooperate. You have an art of advantage over others always. And other systems, we know you have to accept beliefs unquestioningly. There are no beliefs here. You're not asked to believe things. And this is why also I changed my focus. I'm satisfied at how genuine the UFOs are. I've had several sightings. Many people cited UFOs. Billy has affirmed for me a sighting. I was within 20 feet of one of the little craft in the mountains of Brazil. It's great. But beyond being interesting, in a sense, it's not important, because if we don't take care of our world and our lives and our family and cooperate, you can watch UFOs till the cows come home. They're up there watching, oh, these people are really crazy. What are they doing? So I focused more on what I call the prophetically accurate information, the higher standard of proof, simply because nobody can credibly argue with it. Can you find somewhere in there that we made a mistake and somebody published something before? Probably. We're not infallible in our research, but it's 95. It's got to be at least 95%. And remember, Joe Tysk says, one authentic UFO photo. And I say to you, 1, 3, 5, 134, 200, specific, prophetically accurate, verifiably copyrighted things. What more do we want on Earth? Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to punish us. It's up to us. So, for my part, I'm glad to have been invited to give you my perspective on this. And, in America or wherever I've been able to go to speak and present English language, I'm glad to try to always do my best to answer the questions to the best of my ability and to direct people where they might find it if I don't know it. Nobody knows all this. Billy has published probably about 50,000 pages by now of information, over 60 books. And he keeps writing, even though his obligation was long ago fulfilled. So nobody can possibly know all the material. And we can be surprised by it. We're always informed, and there's new stuff, fabulous stuff. So I thank you for allowing me to present my viewpoint in this relatively short presentation. I even have a video out with 55 examples we did years ago. Now we have the 250. So it is simply that, and it is offered out to people basically freely, as Figu does. This is the information. You can go as far as you want. You read the teaching, you see if it brings you value, and join the peace meditation, the Salome peace meditation done on Earth. The Plejaren brought it forward. It's done by several thousands of people, but you don't know about it maybe because we get a little bit suppressed online by the powers that be. It's okay. We keep going. The truth, as Billy said, there are not enough shovels to bury the truth. So sooner or later, and in our case on Earth, it looks like it's going to be later, the silent revolution of truth fulfills itself. That revolution comes to the place of peace, love, freedom, harmony, knowledge, wisdom, compassion, all those wonderful things, the values, the ethics and morals that Billy explains to us, the people of Earth. All the things that have been dismissed and marginalized so we could pay attention to glittery things. This is where it is. This is where we live. So, with that, I guess all I should say is Salome.